Perfect. Well, good morning, everyone. So great to see you here on our webinar. This is as we were just saying, the sixth of seven financial literacy for life science professionals webinars that we are doing this week. So I'm Dave Whalen, the Chief Business Officer of Big Four Bio. We'll share a little bit more about that in a moment. And this was a series that Chris Sarlo from Life Science Wealth and we sort of started to brainstorm last year, thinking about sort of what's missing for life sciences professionals, where is there more attention needed, and that led to building this series. This is Financial Literacy Month in April, and so we brought this together as a way to support the industry. Again, I'm CBO of Big Four Bio, which is the premier aggregator of news and developments across the life sciences sector. Hopefully, everyone is a subscriber already. If not, big4bio.com. These are free daily newsletters that cover developments across the largest life sciences markets in the U.S., including the New York metro area, which was added a couple of years ago. I am based in Los Angeles, but actually, I spend a lot of time in New York and helped to launch New York Genome Center once upon a time. So very connected to the ecosystem there, and thrilled that we can be doing this today. And we have a slight shift today. So Mark Brumbelow from PYA, who has been part of these, is under the weather, couldn't join us, and so we'll tweak the agenda a little bit, but it's going to be great. And so with that, I will pass the baton to Chris Sarlo to tell a little bit of his story and why Life Science Wealth even exists.
And thanks, Dave. Appreciate the intro. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for taking a little bit of time out of your day to see if we can get you a little bit more educated on things finance and hopefully advance you down your pathway towards success. As Dave said, my name is Chris Arlo. I'm the founder of a company called Life Science Wealth. We are based just outside of Washington, D.C., but we are licensed in all 50 states. We do full service wealth planning to that we are exclusive to life scientists and the life science industry. This company is about 5 years old now, just getting close to it. I've been doing wealth management since 1998, so going on to my 27th year now. And the reason that Life Science Wealth was started was actually due to my father. My father is my mentor, my idol, and any other positive word that I can say about a man. And my dad ended up having a massive heart attack. And it was the advancements of life science that a lot of people kind of take for granted that, things are just going to be there and get better. But not only did life science save my dad's life, but it allows him to live a completely normal life on a day-to-day basis. And when we think of things like surgical procedures, pharma, med device, all the different advancements that come along, we want to give back to the community, and the less stress that's on your shoulders and then the more efficient and effective you guys can be when you're doing your day-to-day stuff, the more future lives that are going to be saved by, not only my dad, but countless millions of other people around the world to get that done. So we have a passion for what we do. We love what we do, and we want to help you guys in any way that we can advance your not only your careers but your life, your lifestyles, and just be better, happier people that go along with it. So that's kind of our goal and our mission.
Awesome, terrific. And Lily, please introduce yourself and maybe tell us a little bit about your story and how you got where you are.
Wonderful. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Chris and David. Thank you for allowing me to share my expertise on today's presentation. I am an estate and business planning attorney licensed in New York, New Jersey, DC, Maryland, and Georgia. And my goal really is to help all of you have an honest conversation about the people you love and the assets you've accumulated and create a plan around what happens to the people and the assets when you're no longer here. as titans in your industry who understand that there is a point when none of us will be here. I know sometimes it can be uncomfortable to talk about that period, but my job is to hold your hand and educate you, empower you, and make you feel like, okay, I can influence the people that I care about. I never pretend to say that we can put something in writing to control everyone, control from the grave, that whole scenario, but we can influence. We can have an influence on what happens to your practice. We can have an influence on who raises your children when you're not here. We can have an influence on how your assets are managed and distributed to your loved ones, because it's one thing to work really hard and accumulate and grow and accumulate and grow. But then what happens when you're no longer here? How is everything that you've built transferred? So think of me as your transfer expert, where we speak about what happens to your people, what happens to your assets, what happens to your business when you're no longer here. So I'm really excited to have a conversation that will hopefully help you feel more enlightened and more encouraged to engage in estate and business planning.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That's a wonderful, wonderful introduction. I'm really looking forward to hearing your thoughts, Lily. So part of the genesis of this was Kristen and I talking about the fact that life sciences professionals are there's some unique aspects to how they approach or don't approach financial planning, and I would say as a longtime strategy consultant and business advisor, I see some similar things even just from a standpoint of so many life sciences professionals, founders are so focused on the mission, so focused on the science, literally spending time in the lab that they're not always focusing on the sort of the operational side of their businesses until the business gets larger. And what that also means is they're not necessarily focusing on some of the financial aspects of their lives either. And so, Chris, I know over the years you've seen really a lot of like common patterns, maybe even some blind spots. So share a bit about sort of what makes life sciences professionals unique.
Yeah, and a lot of it is just exactly what you said, Dave. It's the laser focus on what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. That everything else just kind of goes on the back burner, or kick the can down the street as long as they possibly can before something needs to get done. At the end of the day, people need to find that little bit more balance, and they need to find the more time you have to prepare for things, to make decisions, to accumulate, to decumulate later down the road, all those different things that go in and being, the easier it's going to be on you. When you have to cram at the last minute, it makes things a little bit more difficult, and your options become very limited to what you can do. So as we've kind of discussed in the other ones, I will argue that life science is the most educated industry in the world. When it comes to the people that are inside of this industry, we are one of the most well-paid industries in the world. The 2023 numbers was $142,700 on average per employee that's inside of this industry. That's a pretty good average wage when it comes to it. The sad part about it is that we are under national averages when it comes to net worth. And that's kind of a sad thing to say, because very educated, very well paid, but below below average industries that are out there for net worth. I'm a big believer that net worth is far more important than income, because it's not what you make, it's what you do with what you make. Right. And that allows people to have options in life. When you've accumulated wealth, you have different things that are available to you that may not have been available to the average person prior to. And when you have that availability, you have more leisure time, you have more family time, you have more just life in general. And I consider that very important. So those are one of the big things that we concentrate on. The second one that I see is, as we've kind of said in the past, is life sciences is a very nomadic industry. It's very rarely I worked for company A for 30 or 40 years and then retired with a pension. The average person in our industry is going to work for 7.8 different companies over the course of their career. That leads to some pros and cons. Obviously it allows you to move up the charts and the path a little bit better, but it also leaves a bit of a mess. And as Lily, I'm sure will attest to in just a little bit, when there's accounts that are all over the place, when there's 401ks at multiple different institutions, when there's bank accounts at multiple institutions, when something eventually happens to you, it leaves a mess for the executor that's going to be kind of stepping in and taking over at that point in time. So, and not only on the estate side, but on the actual financial planning side, when you have that many accounts, it's very tough to figure out what do you actually have? What is the risk associated with all of the accounts combined? What am I trying to achieve with all of it? Because it's mixed and matched all over the place. And we try and take care of all those different pieces together and make sure that your investments are aligning to your goals, which is aligning to your aspirations, which is aligning to your future legacy of what you're looking for later down the road. So those are the big things that we kind of see inside of our industry.
Excellent. Lily, from your perspective, anything to add in terms of, kind of what makes life sciences professionals, maybe a little bit different or any patterns there?
I think it's the level of intelligence and the idea that because I'm an expert and I'm a titan in this area, that it means everything else I know how to do as well. And I believe in life sciences so much that I don't actually believe in my own mortality. And so I don't even need to talk and think about a time when I won't be here. The intelligence and the Superman, Superwoman aura of I can get to it later because there's a presumption that there's always a later because I'm healthy or I take this drug or I have this treatment going on. It allows persons in this discipline to really kick the can much, much longer than they should. And so there's a lot of conversation and handholding around you're not Superman, you're not Superwoman, you're excellent at your life sciences particular career path, but that doesn't mean you understand how to transfer your assets to your daughter, to your son, to your grandson. So I would say that the intelligence level in this one particular area, and then also this feeling that immortality doesn't really apply, can sometimes get in the way.
Yeah, no, really well said. I love that perspective. And as I was sharing with on one of these earlier in the week, a variation on that, which and by the way, I'm not a life scientist, so I'm not even at that level of brilliance, but still, my wife is constantly reminding me that I might be smart about a lot of stuff, but I don't have a lot of common sense about a lot of stuff. And it's apparently they don't teach common sense in college, so there's a little bit of that element where that Superman syndrome coupled with you're so focused on the really hard stuff and don't think about some of the things that maybe are a bit should be a bit more common sense.
Agreed, David. Agreed.
Excellent, excellent. So, Chris, kind of taking a step back, when we're talking about wealth management and thinking about really this entire area, I recognize this is more than just like your stock portfolio. So, what do you mean by wealth management? Kind of what are all the factors that are encapsulated in that?
Um, the big thing that we kind of talk about in the way that we built this company in the first place was to kind of take it just beyond the investment advice that the vast majority of advisors give. Most people, regardless of what their title is going to tell you what stock, bond, mutual fund to buy, and that's kind of it. They're not getting into estate planning. They're not getting into tax planning. They're not getting into credits and education and philanthropy and all the other pieces that go along with it. The system is built just to kind of concentrate on portfolio performance, and that's about it. When it comes to what we do, we take all 9 areas of wealth that are associated with true wealth planning. And if I don't know if you could see it over my left-hand shoulder here, or go onto our website, which is lifesciencewealth.com. All of these different factors when it comes to wealth management are kind of cogs in the wheel. and each one of them has a direct effect on something else. So most things center around cash flow. Now, I'm not a big believer in budget as an example because most people won't follow a budget, but you have to have a general idea of where your money is going and to the efficiency of what it's going to do for you. And more often than not, the people that end up with higher wealth later down the road are people that were smarter with the cash flow and run very efficient, effective ideas for where their cash flow is going to go. So if there's more money that's going out than coming in, very tough to accumulate wealth over time, right? Those are the kind of the basics when it comes to it. But at the end of the day, yes, is portfolio performance important? Yes and no. People are going to build portfolios. If Dave built a portfolio and I built a portfolio and another, investment advisor built a portfolio, some of theirs are going to beat mine. Some of mine are going to beat theirs when it comes to the individual holdings. And through a full economic cycle, you're not talking actually a lot of difference. So where is that performance going? How tax efficient is that performance? How is it being, in what account is it going into, and for what purpose is it going into? Are there credits that go along with it, like a 529 account or 401k or things along those lines? It's how are you getting the most out of the dollars that you're putting into these things? And then, as Lily will get to in a little bit, when you eventually pass away, that could end up being a very large tax situation for a lot of people, right? So we want to plan it in a way that the most amount of dollars is passed on to your future generation, as opposed to just, going towards the government or going towards taxes or going towards whatever it's going to be. Everybody in this industry, as we've talked about, works extremely hard. And if you want your money to be the most and the best that it can be for you, your family, and your future heirs.
Yeah, no, that's really well said. And you mentioned a couple of things about sort of different portfolios, different times, and it's tough to be talking about long-term gains in performance without sort of thinking about what's happened over the past, really, I mean, past 5 years for sure, right? We all lived through a pandemic, thankfully, and our industry actually, was instrumental in helping to make sure we all lived through that. But we've seen markets up and down, crypto up and down in the same time. Obviously, the past few months have been a roller coaster for everything from stocks to the price of eggs. So how do you advise clients about how do they save for long-term egg purchases, Chris? But how do they kind of maximize that and avoid these momentary blips?
And so, at the end of the day, you look back probably about 5 weeks ago from today was the absolute high of the market, right? The market had never been higher than what it was 5 weeks ago. But as you said, look at some of the things that we've been through, even in the 21st century at this point in time. We went through the tech wreck, we went through the financial meltdown, we went through COVID, we went through number of thing after thing after thing that caused, not that caused a meltdown, but that caused massive volatility within the marketplace for an extended period of time. And as of 5 weeks ago, we were still at the highest point that it's ever been before. So yes, we do play a long game when it comes to it. And when these things happen, we always tell people, think about how many Costco memberships, how many Sam's Club memberships, how many people that buy extra stuff when it's on sale. If you're not retiring tomorrow, right? There's ways to work through this situation. And this is a buying opportunity to buy more for a cheaper price. People were buying 5 weeks ago in hopes that the markets were going to go up. Well, now it's on sale, right? Now it's the same price as it was probably close to 6 or 7 months ago now. But to have a 6 or 7 month flat line is not big, really, when you think about it. It skyrocketed up, it came back down, it needed a breather. We had, there hasn't really been a breather since COVID, and that was hardly a breather when you think about a global pandemic that we were dealing with. The elastic band snapback from what happened in COVID. It was 4 weeks down, and then it was like the number was a straight back up line, and it's like we weren't even living through COVID when it came to the marketplace, right? So when it comes to different things, it's understanding the long term. Whenever we see movies or we see different things, it's like, people always say, oh, I found this stock certificate that's from 1980 and it just kind of sat there and accumulated and look what it's worth today. Sometimes that works. If you take a longer term approach to what it's going to be, yes, there's going to be fluctuation. There's always going to be fluctuation. There's always going to be volatility. But if you do what's right and plan for what you're trying to achieve, there's your risk has to match your reward, and your risk has to match what is the money for, right? If you're saving money for a house that you're going to be buying in 6 months, you shouldn't be in the marketplace anyways, right? If you're retiring in 20 years from now, should money be in the markets? Yes. Should fluctuations occur? Yes. But your risk can kind of handle that piece of it to kind of take a look at what it's going to be. So we have different buckets and different pools that are going towards different things that the client needs and wants to achieve out of life. And if it's all going to be one way or it's all going to be another way, we're going to manage that accordingly to what's important to them, to what they're trying to get out of it, and to make sure that the risk level of that match is there. So it's not wildly, and I'm not going to lose my house because of it, and I'm not going to lose my retirement because of it. It's going to be different pieces that are going to fit to what you're looking to accomplish.
Got it. Got it. No, good insights, and yeah, good to remind us that anything we see on a not even just a daily basis, but over a few weeks, over a few months, it's a real blip compared to what we're going to look at over our careers, and especially for those who are earlier in their careers.
And most people, when it comes to the markets, have very, very short-term memories. When the market's going up, they believe it's always going to go up and nothing's ever going to slow it down. When the market's going down, you see a 10% drop in a month, and they're like, in 10 months, I'm bankrupt. The world and the cycles of economics don't work that way. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, there's going to be flows, and we have to manage accordingly when it comes to those things. But long term, even with inflation, right? Inflation is good for stock markets. We're getting into a bad inflationary time, but that's actually good for the markets on a longer term basis, because cost of goods go up, products go up, profits go up, markets go up. So it hurts in the short run. It feels like it's going to be a lot of pressure in the short run, but it's actually good in the long run.
Yeah. No, interesting. And I was gonna go down one path because we got a little bit of bonus time, but we actually have we got a question from the audience for you, Chris. So I'm gonna weave this in right now, and we have someone who's well, first of all, thanking you for your insights, but saying a lot of banks. A lot of banks provide wealth planning services for their clients, including specialized banks that work closely with founders or investors in life sciences. Sort of, how do you structure your business, and what's the life science wealth story in the context of what some of those banks and their wealth planning services are?
I worked for one of the major banks for 20 years of my career. So I know what the banks do. I know what the independents do. Do we provide similar services? Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I think we provide exceptional service comparatively to the banks, because I know where the mistakes come from inside of the banking realm. There's a lot of push to proprietary product inside of a bank, because not only are they trying to do wealth management, they're trying to push some of their own products inside of it. And I get to see that all the time. And especially when I look at portfolios, I know where it kind of came from and what they've tried to do with it. Is that to say you're going to get bad advice from the bank? No. But at the end of the day, it's more about the advisor than it is about the institution of which you're buying your things from or getting your advice from. There's going to be great advisors in the banking system. There's going to be bad advisors in the banking system. There's going to be great advisors through the independent channels. There's going to be bad advisors through the independent channels. And what you want to do is you want to find somebody that matches up to your mindset, to your pathway, to the way that you see the world, that you think can offer the best advice for you specifically. And if you walk, we always compare what we do to kind of like walking into a doctor's office, right? And if you weren't feeling good and you walked into a doctor's office, if the doctor prescribed you a prescription before they asked you any questions whatsoever, you would never fill that prescription. In the world of finance, people fill that prescription every single day without even hesitation. It's product, product, product before let's try and see what the problem is and then match up something that's going to work accordingly. Maybe you're having, your pre-stroke and they're giving you heart medication, right? Like it doesn't necessarily match up to what the necessary problem is going to be. And what you want to do is when you sit down and talk to somebody, it's not necessarily about their credentials. It's not necessarily about it being a fiduciary or a CFP or any of those types of things. You want to know that your person, him or her, has your back when you need them, right? And when the crap hits the fan because something's gone really wrong in your life, whether it's I lost my job, which we're seeing a lot inside of the industry today, there was an illness in my family, there was a death in my family, there's something going on, that you have somebody you can talk to who's going to walk you through the steps that it takes to come out and see the light at the end of the tunnel and to make sure things are going to be there for you. If you have just an investment advisor, when your spouse passes away and they said, well, we think you should buy Google today, it doesn't match up, right? You want to make sure that your wealth advisor is there for you more when things go bad, more so than when things are really, really good. And that's what you should be looking for. That personal connection of people that know you, know your family, want to be involved, have the empathy to want to know about you and your family and everything that's going on, and then build a proper plan according to what's going on. So hopefully I answered that question. If you can just give a thumbs up if I answered it correctly, or to your degree, then I can go on to the next one from there.
Yeah, and as we're waiting or thinking about that, Chris, kind of a follow on related to that. Typically, are you working with are they founders, executives of larger companies? Is it the entire team at a company? Kind of what's that ideal relationship look like?
Well, that's kind of one of the bigger differences between the bank and what we deal. When you're dealing with the bank, it's always about a number. It's I have $1 million minimum, I have a $500,000 minimum, I have a $5 million minimum, all those different things. We actually base what we do on complexity, right? The dollar amount doesn't necessarily matter. If you have a plain vanilla situation, having a bigger dollar amount doesn't necessarily add complexity to the situation. The situation stays the same. If you are a founder, you may not have large wealth at this point in time because all of your equity is wrapped up inside of your company and there's things to do, but you are complex. There's a lot of moving parts inside of your situation that you have to be aware of in order to benefit from the future of what owning a company potentially can do for you. And that becomes very important. Executives, once again, as they have moving parts when it comes to taxation, when it comes to options, when it comes to equity, when it comes to all those different things, you have a lot of moving parts, which adds complexity. If you are an executive that's a W-2 that doesn't have equity inside of the company, that you have a salary and different things, you may not have a complex situation, and you can deal with somebody inside of our company that doesn't necessarily have the expertise of one of the senior advisors, but can still very easily get the job done for you. So for us, it's all about our process. It's the process of finding out who you are, where are you currently, and we call it a roadmap for a very, very specific reason. It's where are you now, where are you trying to get to, and let's find a course that's going to get you there. But over the course of that drive or however you're getting there, there's going to be pivots, there's going to be construction, there's going to be accidents, there's going to be all those different things that cause you to come off the road, find a new route, and get back on the highway, a little bit later down the road. And we're going to be there for you through all of those times to make sure that's important to you.
Got it. No, that's great. And you mentioned you mentioned a couple things that would have been it would have been the perfect segue to Mark. And so we're gonna channel a little bit of Mark from the from the tax side of things. And this has been a really, I think, an important part of the conversation because you were talking about equity, you're talking about mix, and Chris, we've talked to Mark this week about, in particular, sort of equity compensation, which is, really It's not necessarily why we're in this industry. We're in this industry to save lives, cure disease, but absolutely the idea of the financial upside that comes from working with some of those 7.8 companies. Hopefully all of those will go public someday and or get acquired, and those options are worth something. Um, so I've been asking Mark in particular about, once
Mhm.
upon a time, I remember even early in my career, it was like, there was a standard, stock option agreement, and you had stock options, you didn't, you had, more or less, strike price, but now it's this mix of, restricted stock units and incentive stock options and things like that. And want to know maybe how, what conversations you have with clients about that, and then we can, maybe dig into a couple of the details that Mark was mentioning as well.
Well, the big thing that Mark kind of said, kind of time and time again, and we agree with it, and I'm sure Lily would agree with it. It is a jigsaw puzzle, right? You have all the pieces that are going to be there, but you have to kind of assemble it and understand what the bigger picture is kind of going to look like, as opposed to just the one jigsaw puzzle piece that's going to be there. So when we engage with a client, we ask a lot of questions and we ask a lot of the hard questions because we need to know this information in order to build a better picture for what your future is going to look like. And when it comes to things like equity, like options, like things along those lines, the thing most people don't realize, or most people believe, it's a light switch. I either have to execute all of the options or none of them whatsoever. But I think people have to realize it's a dimmer switch, right? Just because you got 10,000 options doesn't mean you have to exercise 10,000 of them. You can exercise one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10, or any number that's in between there. And based on what you're trying to achieve, based on what cash flow that you need from it, based on all the other factors that go into it, we're going to execute what needs to be done, once again, in order to hit your goals. This is all goal planning. It's all about having enough cash flow. It's always about having enough equity. It's about having enough thing that is going to hit multiple levels. And if you are an executive inside of life sciences, this is the other weird thing that comes to life science people. Salaries are actually lower when it comes to the executive level because they receive so much equity compensation when it comes to it. But when people go out and buy a house, right? When the mortgage broker or the bank is going to say, how much of a house can you afford? Oh, my income was 400,000 last year or 500,000 last year. They're going to qualify you based on your total income. The problem is going to be your monthly mortgage payments can't be paid based on your total compensation. It has to be based on available cash. So that's where we see a lot of executives actually have very poor credit ratings because they have to take on a whole bunch of debt over the course of the year in praying to God that they get the bonus that they got last year. So all they do is when they get the bonus, pay off the debt that they accumulated over the course of the year because they were waiting for the next bonus check to come in. Because I'm being qualified on 500,000, but my salary maybe is only 200,000. And the 300,000 equity piece, I only get that once a year. Sometimes it's even vested and I might not be able to touch it, or they're restricted in some way, or all those different things. So those are the pieces of the puzzle that we have to put together and make sure that we're solving the most number of problems that we can for our people.
Yeah, absolutely. I was channeling Mark's insights, really well, and I think the key thing that he said throughout the week is, there are a lot of details here. It is a jigsaw puzzle, like you said, and it's both a jigsaw puzzle in terms of over your career and that mix of salary and equity and kind of the long-term aspects of things, but it's a jigsaw just in terms of or puzzle in terms of the minute by minute. And the one thing that Mark's been very clear to highlight is people think about or hear about 83B elections and things like that, making sure you are filing these documents within 30 days, because that's the kind of thing that you either do it on time, or if you don't, you've missed that window, and there's going to be huge tax consequences. And so this is the kind of thing that working with working with a tax advisor like Mark is going to be critical to help. And Chris, I'm guessing if a client comes to you and they're working on their working on this wealth strategy, and you ask some questions about their equity, kind of what they're doing, what their goals are, and they don't have a Mark in their lives, then what do you do?
Well, the big thing I kind of consider myself the quarterback of the team, so to speak, right? And when things are happening, do you have an accountant? Do you have an estate planner? Do you have a lawyer? Do you have these people that are part of your financial team to make things better for you? If you don't, we have a number of people nationwide that we can bring in, like a Lily, like a Mark, who can help solve those different problems for you if you don't have them. If you do have them, we want to have a conversation with them because we want to make sure everybody's on the same page. Because at the end of the day, you hired us to work for you. So we want to make sure the client is first and foremost above anything else that's going to be happening. And we want to make sure, is your estate in order? Does it cover the right things? Was it done through, an online service as opposed to being done? A lot of people, as we talked about nomadic, if you've switched states, and I'm sure Lily can talk about this as well, once you've switched states, the basis of what you've done for your plan is still intact, but how does the new state tax things compare to the old state? And do I have to make any changes? So should you do a review? Yes. When I have a family, should I do a review? Yes. We want to make sure that all the different pieces of the pie make sense to what your current situation is, not necessarily what your situation was 4 or 5 years ago when you adapted it the first time. If circumstances change, you may have to change along with it. And you probably should change along with it, but at least review it to make sure. If it's a minor change, does it need to be taken care of? Depends how minor it is. If it's something major, yes, make sure you do the review. So we have our clients choose how often they want to be reviewed because some people want it quarterly. They want to make sure. Some people don't want it quarterly. They want it annually. So we do an annual review with them. But in the paperwork that we sign, once again, we're making sure we're on the same page. You elect for how often you want to be reviewed, and we go along with it. But what we tell people, in the meantime, if you are between reviews and something major is happening in your life, we expect you to call us to give you the most amount of advice and education for what that current situation is on a go forward basis. Because if you come to me and say, Chris, I bought a house yesterday, we can't figure out what mortgage to do and all these different things without spending a lot of money and unraveling it all. If you say, Chris, I'm starting to look for a house, or I'm thinking about starting my own company, or I'm thinking about doing all this kind of stuff, you have a whole myriad of options available to you for how we're going to structure it, what we're going to do, what price you're looking at, what mortgage you're looking at, all these different things. One time gives you options. No time, no options. You're stuck with what's there at that point in time.
Yeah, and we'll come back to that time and options and sort of then there's some great questions that fit in with our um outline here in terms of starting early, but want to switch over to Lily for a second and just we've been talking throughout the week, Lily, with everyone about kind of the range of documents that someone should be putting together from from an estate standpoint, from will, power of attorney, but even health directives and things like that. Walk us through kind of the lifespan, so to speak, of a life sciences professional. So just out of college, maybe single, no kids.
Mm,
What do they need to prepare, and then how do you help them enhance that over their careers as life gets more complicated?
great question and great information, Chris. For me, the through line through your entire presentation was planning. There's no there's nothing that you can just buy once and say it's done. It's parked. I never have to revisit that again. That's why we believe that, we always tell our clients planning looks good on you. The moisturizer looks good on you. The sunscreen looks good on you. The degree looks good on you. Planning looks good on you. And planning requires tweaks. So whatever plan you're going to create when you first exit your graduate program and enter corporate world or life sciences world, that will be tweaked as you move along, and it's all going to be dependent upon your life circumstances. I'll say this before I get into the specific documents. If you can walk away visualizing your planning pyramid, you're going to be smarter than all the people around you as it relates to estate planning. Imagine a pyramid. There's the top or the apex, the center, and then the base or the foundation of the pyramid. Every single asset that you own will eventually belong to someone else. How it gets in the hands of that someone else depends upon where it falls in the pyramid. The very top of the pyramid is called operation of law. That means there's a law on the books, a state law, sometimes a federal law, that tells us what happens to the asset when the owner is no longer here. It doesn't matter what your will says. It doesn't matter what your trust says. It doesn't matter what contract or verbal agreement you may have had with someone. The law trumps, which is why it's at the top of the pyramid. And the most common example is real estate. The second layer or the middle of your planning pyramid is operation of contract. Anything that allows you to name a beneficiary is a contract. Imagine your life insurance, your pension, your 401ks, your IRAs, even your ordinary checking and savings accounts allow you to add beneficiaries to the accounts so that when you are no longer here, the balance can just be transferred to whoever you name as the beneficiary. And that's important because if it's your checking account that's paying the mortgage and the summer school and the band camp and the property taxes, when you die, the account being locked is a huge problem for your family, a huge problem for your business. So simply adding beneficiaries, some banks call them PODs or TODs. It's the same effect. Adding those persons to your accounts will ease a lot of the financial burdens for your family and your medical and your life science practices. So we have operation of law at the top. We have operation of contract in the middle. And then the foundation of your plan is going to be called operation of legacy. So think about it like this, ladies and gentlemen. If an asset passes by law or it passes by contract, we know where it goes. Everything else is just hanging out. What do I do with David's business that's only in his name? What do I do with Chris's car that's only in his name? Anything that doesn't pass by law or by contract is just hanging out. And we need your legacy documents to tell us what to happen in that event. And there are 3 basic legacy documents I think everyone should have. And then you can add more complexity and more layers as your life becomes more complex and more layered. But the foundation, especially for those just entering in the workforce, is the will, the power of attorney, and the healthcare proxy. I call those your 3 basic documents. The will gets to say, my name is David. These are my family members. Pay my debts, because our debts don't disappear just because we're not here. That includes your, medical school loans. Those don't just go away because you're not here anymore. Here, this is who I am. These are my family members. Pay my debts. If I have a minor child and me and the child's other parent passes away, this is who I want to be the guardian. And then everything else, give it to so-and-so. Chris gets a third, David gets a third, Jason gets a third, and we're done. Whatever Chris, David, and Jason do with the gift that I've given them, it's up to them. If they invest it and become the next Oprah Winfrey, fantastic. If for some reason they have terrible luck in Atlantic City, oh, well, too bad, so sad, right? So your will is your opportunity to name guardians of your children, if you have minor children, pay your debts, and then distribute your assets to whomever. They can be in the US, they can be abroad, they can be a child, they can be a best friend, it can be a charity, it doesn't matter. That is the purpose of your will. Your power of attorney is your opportunity to say, if I'm alive but I'm incapacitated, all of you are familiar with incapacity. It could be dementia, Alzheimer's, coma, severe mental illness, severe mental depression. Something is happening and you can no longer participate in making your own decisions. Your power of attorney is your opportunity to say, if that happens, I trust this person to come in and help me. I trust this person to come in and help me make legal decisions. They can make financial decisions. They can pay my bills. They can sign paperwork. If I'm a business owner, they can continue running my business. If I cannot do it, then I need to choose someone who can come in and help me under those circumstances. So your power of attorney allows you to choose that someone. Similarly, your healthcare proxy allows you to choose someone who can make medical decisions for you. This person can have access to your medical records. Ordinarily, HIPAA doesn't allow that, but with the healthcare proxy, we can override that. This person can talk to your doctor. This person can say, I really don't like how facility A is treating my friend Chris. I want to move him to facility C down the street. Your healthcare proxy agent has that authority. So think of the healthcare proxy and the power of attorney as your break in case of emergency. I'm incapacitated or you're incapacitated and you can't make decisions. The power of attorney and the healthcare proxy can step in and make those decisions for you. And your will only controls matters after you're no longer here. That's your ability to pay your debts and then distribute whatever's left over to whomever or whatever charity or alma mater you choose. Those are the three basic documents. So some of you may be thinking, well, I don't have a family. Maybe I don't own property yet. I don't own a business. Do I need a will? At the very least, I would say yes, but if that's uncomfortable for you or you don't feel like it's necessary right now, please, please, please start with the power of attorney and healthcare proxy because you don't need a family and you don't need to be older to have an emergency. Anyone can become incapacitated. Anyone can slip into a coma. Anyone can suffer from severe depression. So at least create a safety net for yourself where if that happens to you, someone is around you to catch you. Otherwise, there's a long, expensive court process that needs to be undertaken if there is no power of attorney and there is no healthcare proxy. So I recommend everyone start with the emergency documents, but also have a will if you're open to that. And then some people will say, well, when do I need a trust? I would say you would add a trust on top of those three basic documents. If you say to me, Lily, I do want Chris to get the money, but I want certain rules and parameters to be met first. I need him to be of a certain age. I need him to graduate. I need him to only use the money when he's purchasing his first home or it's to be given to his children for their college education. Anytime you think about rules and parameters around your gift, then you're using a combination of a will trust. But if you're the type of person who says, no, he can have his gift. I trust him. Look at him. Look at all the financial knowledge this man has. He doesn't need any restrictions from me. Just let the man have it. Then you can leave it to him in a will. So depending upon where you are in your practice, where you are in your life, that will be the determining factor as to whether or not we need just the basics, the will, the power of attorney, and the healthcare proxy, or do we need to layer more complex documents such as a trust, such as an LLC, such as a charitable foundation, whatever it is where you are in life, we can layer them together so that these plans grow with you and tweak with you. So for instance, you have Chris as your financial advisor. He tells you, hey, we did really well. You're now a millionaire. Okay, so then me and Chris can have a conversation about what does that millionaire status now mean for your estate plan? I may need to tweak your estate plan now so that I can help you reduce any millionaire tax that may be waiting for you. And this is why, to Chris's point, it's good to work with advisors who are all at the same round table. We're all serving you. We shouldn't be in silos. I should absolutely have a conversation with your real estate attorney to see if the property that you just purchased should be in your name or in the name of the trust or in the name of the LLC. And then your CPA needs to talk about the tax consequences. And then your CPA needs to talk to Chris about the financial planning map that he's going to put in place to make sure we have enough funds to keep all of this going. No advisor should be in a silo. We should all be at the round table because we're all working for you, but there's so many areas of expertise that are needed that we should all be communicating with each other. So I would
Yeah.
say start with the basic documents, the will, the power of attorney, the healthcare proxy, and then layer other elements as needed.
Yeah, wonderful. And the team aspect, this is the perfect segue to kind of how we want to wrap this up and answer some questions. But I think thank you for that, Lily. One of the things that Mark said yesterday so eloquently, which I loved, is as you think about this team, the idea is that Chris, on the wealth management side, this is about having an effective strategy, and then someone like Mark on the tax side, this is an efficient strategy. And then Lily, enduring strategy. So effective, efficient, enduring. And I really love that in terms of thinking about how those work together. And so as we're kind of going into the final few minutes, and by the way, we've got questions coming in. We can definitely stick around a little bit longer if anyone wants to hear these. But we had a couple of questions around both when should you start, how do you start, and in particular for female founders or female executives, are there specialized programs for women to help educate in wealth planning, especially since maybe they're not typically managing their family's finances, and so would love to get perspective from both of you on when do you start, how do you start, and in particular for women.
Lily, you want to go first, and then I'll go after that.
Well, so when do you start for women? The moment you have some type of asset to protect, that's number one. And number two, if you are caring for someone else and that someone else is dependent upon you, then I would say that's a great opportunity to start creating a plan, because the plans that we create are really going to be focused on making sure that the people that you love and the assets that you've accumulated are taken care of. And wherever you are in your phase, if you have people who are dependent upon you, and that doesn't even need to be a child, it could be elderly parents, it could be a sibling who relies on you for some type of support. It could be your favorite organization that's keeping their doors open because you give so much on a regular basis. Whoever and whatever is dependent upon you will be the catalyst to say, let's start planning with you right now, woman and or man, right? And then also any assets that you've accumulated. Now is the time to start planning, because when you're not here, it has to go somewhere. And it has to go somewhere in as easy and as a tax efficient manner as possible. Because without a plan, does it eventually end up in someone's hands? Yes. How long did it take to get there? And how bumpy was the road traversed in order to receive that particular asset? Let's minimize the bumps, let's minimize the tax liability and create a plan. So I would say any woman, if you're caring for someone else and or you have assets in your portfolio, regardless of the size of the asset, that's when you begin planning.
Look,
Great.
to add a little bit more to that, I will say from dealing with women founders that we have over the course of our lives, in my experience, it is a lot. There's a lot more on a woman founder than there is a male founder for a couple of different reasons. One, if you're a woman founder who's running the business but also has children, when children get sick, when children feel ill, 99% of the time they're running to mom versus running to dad. So there is a lot more pushes that are on your life compared to more often than what the man is, because when someone gets sick, when somebody gets hurt, they're running to you. So you have to run the household. More women are actually running the finances when it comes to the household because of the level of executiveship that women have moved up to in the last little while. And that's absolutely fantastic. But you're running a business, you're running your household, and you're running, the health and wealth of the house at the same time. So there's a lot more push and pull that comes along you when it comes to that. So when you are the major decision maker on so many different levels when it comes to your house, um, it there's a bigger strain and there's a bigger stress on you when it comes to it. And having people like us in your corner to release some of that stress is going to be priceless when it comes to what we have the capabilities of doing for you, because there's so much demand on you. We just want to take that down a notch or two to allow you to breathe a little bit and allow you to do some different things. So when it comes to women founders, that becomes a big thing. Do we have a specialized program for women founders? No, because education, whether you're male or female, the education side stays the same regardless. Your situation might be a little bit different. There might be circumstances that go along with it, but I don't believe that it needs a specialized program assigned to it. It is, we don't believe in rule of thumb anyways, right? We're talking to you as an individual. We will find out what your individual circumstances are and what is important to you, and we will build a plan around you for what's important to you. So that is more of what our specialized program is. It is not necessarily, well, you're a woman, you get this program, you're a man, you get this program. We want to know about you, your life, your family, your circumstances, and we will build a program around that regardless of gender. I guess that's the easiest way to say it.
Awesome. Awesome. That's great. In terms of just back to starting early, I think we've really talked through this throughout the hour, and so it's maybe as we're getting into the final moments, I think people are starting to head off to their next set of meetings. Would love just to get really quickly from each of you, sort of what's one or two things that somebody should do when they get off the Zoom here, before the weekends, before the month ends. So Lily, we'll start with you. Kind of, what's your call to action for all of our viewers?
Call to action, very simple. Add beneficiaries to all of your accounts. Let's start simple without requiring you to hire anyone right now. Add beneficiary to your checking and savings accounts. Review beneficiaries on life insurance, any type of retirement plan, because that is a form of estate planning that you can do on your own.
Awesome, Chris.
For me, I've said it before. I always believe in this. You could do all the planning in the world that you want. Take a step. You have to be able to take that step forward from plan to implementation, right? If you can spend days sitting around an office looking at the computer, looking at Google for all the different things that you think would benefit you, but at some point in time, you got to put pen to paper. You got to take that step forward and to do something with it. And at the end of the day, I've said it before, I'll say it again. The earlier you start, the better it's going to be for you. And then do something. Take a step, whether it's a baby step or whether it's a giant leap. Do something that is going to advance you and your family and the wishes that you want to achieve. Because planning it and having it sit on a shelf somewhere did absolutely nothing for you. It actually detracted away because you kind of wasted that time not doing anything. So implementation is going to be far more important than the planning side, but you got to have a plan in place in order to implement at the same time. So it's not a chicken and an egg thing. You got to do the plan, but you also have to implement those parts of the plan as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as we've talked about, everyone who's showing up this week is already, they're taking a first step, which is great. So we love having people here. We will be sharing contact information and hopefully recordings as well. So look for those in an email. And Chris, really want to thank you for inspiring this series. It's been great. We've got one more with Boston later today. Lily, fabulous having you on board, and hopefully we can do this again. So thank you all, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
All
Bye,
right.
everyone.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Lily. Thanks, Dave.
You're welcome. Bye.